That's something that's there.
Yeah, I'll put that.
Windermere, 22nd.
Yes,
Friday.
okay, we are exactly on time.
Beautiful.
Yay, I like that. And Lynn, that's it. Lynn and Beth. That's what I'm wondering.
And they may come.
Michelle is sick. Mary and Patty are on their way home from Atlanta from Cliff's surgery, which turned out to not be a brain tumor. Thank you, Jesus. Just radiation scarring and stuff. So,
Wow, that's great.
isn't that great?
Yeah, wow.
So now they just have to worry about blood clots, I think is what they said. So they're going to have to watch him for a while. Cliff, which is Vicky's husband.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So they're on their way back from there, and then Karen and Jody are out.
How is he
So
mentally?
how is
Mentally?
that's why I think that's why they thought something was happening, because he was acting a little funny. So they went in and found, but that necrosis can go over into good brain tissue, and so
Did
they
you
cut
read
that
what
out.
Jennifer said? You read what
I
Jennifer
did.
said?
What did I miss?
She just didn't leave it that he would be mentally fully recovered. Bring back my pop-up partially.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is your brain.
Well, that's what. How
You know?
old a man is he? He's younger than I am, that's all I know.
I don't know. Let's see. Vicky is in her 60s. I know Patty is 68. Will be in December, which means
Patty will be
Yeah.
68.
if I'm 58, she's 68.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
I saw her as a little toddler.
So that means Vicky's 70 something. So Cliff is 70 something. Yeah, I have to.
Y'all are getting old and making us old.
Right?
Yeah.
How true.
Just because I get old means I get to have grandbabies. So.
I know. Precious. Precious.
We are. All right. Let's in prayer. Father, we just thank you so much for this morning. We thank you for your word. Thank you that the men were faithful to write it down, and that it has been preserved for us. I pray that we would look to you to fight our battles, that we would look to you in every single battle, skirmish, anything that we have in our life, Father, whether it be hard or whether it be easy, that we would simply consult you. And that verse would not be said of us, they did not seek the counsel of the Lord. Father, I pray that we would seek your counsel first and foremost, and then help us to obey. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I always tell you to be somebody in the story, because Old Testament is like a story. So, and if you haven't thought about who you were, who would you be if I asked you that today? Who would you be in this story?
This story.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
Because this is, chapters 9 through 12. We're occupying the land, right? We're going into war. Let me do a review. What's chapter 1 about? Strong and courageous. Everybody knows Joshua 1:9, right? Okay, so we had to theme it. We would have to say strong and courageous in there somewhere because it's mentioned at least 3 times. So we know this has to be a theme running, okay? The Lord is with you. What about Joshua 2? What's that about?
Great having spies.
Okay, right? He sent 2 spies in, only 2. And Rahab's in there. What about Joshua 3?
3 was circumcision.
Right? Okay, so they crossed the Jordan on dry ground. So this is all about the altar, or not the altar, the Ark of the Covenant. Going through, standing in the middle, they walk across on dry ground. This is the Jordan, not the Red Sea. Okay, 4.
That was
The memorial. And where are those?
First half, second half.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right? First half, second half. And then we got stones in the Jordan, and we got stones outside the Jordan. Okay, and then chapter 5. That's circumcision. After they've crossed over, they have the stones. So whose territory are they in at this point?
Enemy.
Enemy. They're in the enemy's camp, and they can't fight. So who fights for them? God fights for
Captain
them.
of the law.
The captain of the host has got to be in there, even though he's only on the last 2 or 3 verses of the chapter. But we got to know where he comes in. Chapter 6, we've got about
Jericho.
Jericho, okay? As children, we knew that. What about the child as a child, did you realize wasn't quite accurate?
A lot of it. Most of it.
Right? Most of it. At least my flannel graph pictures that I remember.
Yeah, I never had
We're
that.
accurate. Okay.
Oh, it is.
How many people?
600,000.
601,730.
Thank you, 601,730. Right. Men of war.
Right.
Valiant men of war. Yes. Okay, it's in chapter 7. This is not good.
Defeat of
Israel's defeated due to disobedience.
Right.
Joshua destroyed
And their
Jericho.
everybody's disobedience?
One.
Non-man's.
One family, one tribe, one clan. Yeah. And then the whole, how many people did they lose?
36.
36. Death.
Plus who knows how many injuries.
Plus injuries. We didn't even talk about that. Okay, and then chapter 8. I like that better. Victory at AI.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, now we're going to chapter 9.
Excuse me.
Who are you? You're within Israel. Who do you want to be?
In God's eyes.
Okay.
Somebody.
Right? Okay, pick a character. Do you want to be Joshua?
I
You want to be
Joshua.
the Levites carrying the ark? You want to be
That's what I
Rahab?
thought.
You want to be not Achan's family?
I mean, Joshua was
That would be
deceived. I
awesome
don't know
to
that
be
I want to
Joshua.
be.
I don't know if I want to just because he was deceived.
I know.
You ever been deceived?
Yeah.
That doesn't feel good. That makes you feel stupid, and then what do you feel?
Angry.
Angry. That somebody would do that. Yeah. Okay.
Rahab would be good to be, just.
That's who I am.
Yeah.
That's who I'm sitting there going, okay,
Yeah.
I got rescued.
Yeah.
Me and my whole family. Where will we take it?
Outside the camp.
Outside the camp.
Think about
But we're
your
still with
faith.
them.
Yes.
We're not their enemy anymore.
Under their protection.
Right? So I'm under their protection, so I don't worry about any of these enemies anywhere. I am protected.
And
Hopefully
her
she's
faith
retired.
in
Hopefully she's retired. She had to be retired.
her faith in that city, that she
Her faith.
stand up and just
That's brave woman. Brave woman.
Just
She took her life in her
amazing.
hands. Literally. Because who
She's
came to
seen
look
a
for the
lot.
spies in her house? The
she's
king.
seen a lot. But just hearing about them, she
Right.
makes a decision to.
Amazing.
I saw some parallels, not complete parallels, but with Gideon and Rahab too. Gideon also had a fear of God, and they were scared they were going to get destroyed, just like Rahab. She knew her city was going down, and Gideon. So, although they completely lied, which was completely bad, if you actually put yourself in their shoes, they did show faith.
They did.
They did more than any other city in Israel.
true.
They showed faith. So it's kind of I was back and forth on why did
Because
God
why would
back
they
them
want to
up
make a
and-
covenant with them?
Because they knew
Because
they were
they
going to
knew
destroy.
they were
They're
And
gonna get
they
destroyed.
were quickly willing to become servants, right?
Exactly.
I know.
Okay, fine.
Anything.
We'll do whatever you say.
Better than
So,
dying.
I see some parallels with Rahab and Gideon. I mean, Gideon is a city and Rahab
That's
is
a
a person.
good
but I see
insight.
some
That's a
parallels
good
there.
insight. Was Rahab assimilated into Israel?
Rahab was. We don't
And
know
how do we
family.
know that?
Because she's Jesus' line.
Yes.
So what tribe was she assimilated into?
Judah.
Judah's. Right. And what's the biggest tribe?
Judah.
Judah. So we know she got in there. So she wasn't always outside camp. At one point, she was let in to be one of them.
But we never know what happens to her family.
We don't.
It does say in that chapter that like Rahab, something about Rahab going into Israel.
It says she lived among them.
Yes,
Among-
it does. But
yeah.
it only says she. It was like
And,
two verses after
she.
the thing talking about her family, but it only
Yes.
says she, not they.
Yes.
Right.
So
Right.
we don't know what happened with the family.
We don't. And usually it's not mentioned unless it's with the man.
Right.
Because that's the important one. Because they carry on the line or whatever. Yeah. Okay, for me, yeah, I wanted to be your head. I'm like, okay, they didn't do so good at AI. They lost 36 people. Wonder if this was a good idea. I mean, I can't go back because Jericho is no more. Nor does, I think she wants to go back, but she's wondering, what is this? What does it look like when they seek the counsel of the Lord? What do they, what would Moses do if he sought the counsel of the Lord?
It would purify
Go to
himself
the
first.
mountain.
Go to the mountain.
It's way.
By himself.
They're not at the mountain. Well, where does Joshua go to consult the counsel of the Lord? Because we know he didn't, but he should have. And then when he did, it's good. But where? Well, it's like that word, consecrate. Okay. If they say, go consecrate yourselves, they knew exactly what to do. They did it. So if he's going to go seek the counsel of the Lord, something is a habit of his life. So they know that he's going to seek the counsel of the Lord because they knew that he didn't. So what didn't, he did. What action, bodily action?
Don't they wash
does he have to
themselves,
do?
or is that just the priest?
That's the priest.
He got alone.
He what? He got alone.
Which,
He got
I mean,
alone.
when you're camping with that many people, getting alone can't be an easy thing to do.
Right.
So he had to probably walk a decent way to get alone.
Those stones, remember the place?
Okay. Well, in the map, we know they're at Gilgal.
Mhm.
That's possible. That's possible. What happens when the camp moves? What happens? As far as I know, this command has not stopped, even though they're
Well, the ark would
Just
still
order.
move in the center.
There's order.
in 3,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
what's in the center then?
The presence of God.
The presence of God is there. Where is the ark supposed to be housed?
In the
In the
tent.
tent.
In the tabernacle.
Tabernacle.
Because then they know where the presence of the Lord is and when they're supposed to move and when they're not supposed to move and all that kind of stuff. As far as I know, that hasn't stopped.
What's interesting though is every time they talk about like any encounter with God that they have, it's never in the temple. It's normally on a mountain or in the desert or,
Right.
you know, like he gets alone, he runs in, you know.
And the
there's-
ark doesn't stay there.
It's never where they don't ever go to the temple and meet with God. It's
Right.
like Joshua is somewhere else.
Right.
Like he walks away from camp or
Right.
something.
Sacrifice for sins, that's not even mentioned. I mean, was it sin that they didn't seek the counsel of the Lord and they lost 36 men, let alone injuries? Well, yeah, it was, because in
Yeah.
Deuteronomy they were commanded to
Yeah.
always seek the counsel of the Lord and never turn from the right to the left.
Especially for decisions, big decisions like
Right.
that.
So in Deuteronomy, what were they supposed to do when they sinned?
Make sacrifice.
Sacrifice.
So
Yeah.
in my head, logically, the tabernacle would be up. The priests would be operating because then they wouldn't be able to be keeping the law and let this law not depart from your mouth and let follow it and don't turn from right. They wouldn't be able to do that unless the tabernacle was set up for them to keep the law. It doesn't say that they did that. So I don't want to read between the lines.
Yeah.
However, in Deuteronomy, they are commanded to do this when they. So I am assuming
And in Exodus
this is
2,
what happened.
Exodus 19, 10, and 11, it's
Right.
It is.
That's the
also,
first
right.
giving of the law.
Right.
Deuteronomy is the
That
whole
is just-
second before Moses
Right.
dies and Joshua
Well, and they
takes the
seem to
people
have made
in.
permanent camp in Gilgal, because even with these later chapters we read this week, they
They
keep
go
going
back.
back to all
Going
they
back to
conquer, they go back to
Gilgal.
Gilgal. They conquer, they go back to Gilgal. So like the
So what
women
can
and
we
children are hanging
logically
out in
assume
Gilgal.
is at Gilgal?
Yeah.
The temple.
Yeah, and all the tribes,
Yeah,
all the
right.
way
The women
around
and
the
children are all
tabernacle.
hanging out at Gilgal while they're all fighting.
They have to be somewhere safe. So let's assume and that must be where Rahab is because she's been assimilated. And she's in whatever camp Judah is in, okay, with her household. If you're Rahab, what are you thinking at this point after chapter 8? Is chapter 8 good or bad? Good.
It was good,
They
yeah.
took Ai.
Yeah.
Now they have Ai, they have Jericho. So here they go,
Yeah.
right? It's like, next.
You would think
I
that,
would think
okay,
she would
it's
say, I'm thankful I'm under their
I'm
protection.
thankful I'm right here.
right
Yeah.
now,
Because
but,
of all
you know,
these other kings and people that they're going, he
Didn't work out so well for them. I
Right.
think I made a good choice.
Right.
Okay. If you had to have a theme for Joshua 9, because literally you have gone through chapters 8 and you've got to pretty much, I know this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, and now we're in chapter 9 and this happens in chapter 9. What happens in chapter 9?
He was deceived
By
by the inhabitants of
Gibeon. You want to know, where's that covenant made with Gibeon?
Yeah.
Right here. Because how long does this last, this covenant?
Forever.
Forever.
I put that Israel made a covenant without God.
With Gibeon.
mm.
So add Gibeon, but Yeah.
But later in the study, we actually read the, like, I think it was the last day, we read the thing that was talking about how to treat the cities outside of Israel, and they actually did the
Yes.
right thing if the city was outside Israel. Because if they,
Right.
It wasn't.
because if
And
they
why
asked
was
for
that
peace, they
okay?
were supposed to give them peace to make a covenant.
Exactly,
is what
because
it
they're
said.
far away.
I thought that was interesting that she threw it in the last day. I'm like, that would have made a lot more sense early on in this
Right,
time.
right.
Thanks for letting me wait till the last day.
Yeah.
When they went up north, they didn't burn everything. They took the thing, and I'm like, oh.
Is that
And
good or bad?
then,
And then you read
we
that.
read that.
You're like, okay, all right, we're
Yeah,
okay with
thank
that.
goodness he
That passage
throw
helped
that
a
in
lot.
there.
Right? Okay. Okay, so you go to verses 1 through 2. What are they about? And know that I'm not going to be reading because that's big verses. We'd be here for hours.
I'm gonna really,
And remember when they told you to now list the events of just a kind of short synopsis of what's happening in this chapter. If you had a hard time doing that, if you didn't, well, which do I include, whatever, this is what this is going to be. What are verses 1 to 2 about? Because in verse 3, it changes.
And just when
I got the kings banded together.
Right.
Like Joshua
Why?
did, so. Well, to save their land.
And who they heard about?
Joshua and the people of Israel.
Jericho, Ai.
Yeah.
But I like the
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the contrast from 1 to 2 to 3. All
There
these
you
cities
go.
got together to fight Joshua, and Gideon says, "Wait a
I
minute."
don't think that's a good idea. Right.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. So the kings of the land all gather to fight against Israel after they find out about Jericho and Ai because they're afraid. Gideon doesn't think that's such a good idea. Because what happened to Jericho and Ai?
all gone.
Because they were such great warriors. No. I mean, Jericho's walls. I mean, it's crazy. 601,730 people. He marched around for 7 days. That's like a weird battle. I've never seen that before, but look what happened.
It worked.
And they go into Ai. A-I-I.
I know.
Okay, something weird is happening with these people. And they don't fight according to our rules. This is not how we fight.
I know.
This is not the rules of war.
I thought it was so pretty cool, and I thought, God, you can even do that today. Throw those
Right.
stones from heaven. And
How do you fight against that?
I know.
You don't.
No.
You can't win against that kind of tactic.
And,
So I don't blame these
and
kings.
more were killed by the stones
I
than
know.
were rather than
Right?
Yeah.
So Gideon, they're pretty smart.
Chapter 10, verse 2, kind of clear back on 9, where it says that Gideon, the other cities were few because Gideon was a great city, like one of the royal cities. So at first, when I'm thinking Gideon's small and scared.
Right.
Gideon is one of the
They're
royal
not.
cities,
Yeah.
and
Right.
they're scared enough that they're making a covenant.
Right.
A messed up covenant, you know. But,
They're not this little tiny city. They're big.
So that shows even more faith from Gideon.
Mhm.
Is, you know,
I agree. I
I think
agree.
the Gibeons know the rules that if you are far away, you can make a.
I wrote that down too. How did they know that? Because they
Yeah.
knew it. They did know that. How did they know
did
that?
know that.
How did they know Moses told them to go in and take all the land? How'd they know that?
they must have
I
heard.
Heard it.
Somehow they knew that
Just
this is
how
what you're supposed
Rahab
to do.
knew.
And, yeah, I wrote that down.
Right? Rahab knew. Right?
Yeah.
The Jewish people are known for telling their families,
Mm-hmm.
the man of the family stories. So it's obviously carried down.
Right. But you think
But you know
they're a
those
closed
people-
society and
But
nobody
they're
goes in,
very
nobody
closed
goes out.
society.
Everybody walks in, walks. But who's on the outside looking in? The rest of the world. Okay?
They didn't have to
Apply that to your life.
Still,
Who's on the outside
Looking in.
looking in?
I know, but they
You
didn't
got
have
battles
technology.
every day.
How did the word get out like that? Like,
Word of
Out,
mouth.
out,
they
out.
was
Word
just
of mouth.
coming there.
You got nomads
That was what they're
everywhere.
known.
And they were in
Jewish people
captivity
known
before
for.
that, so,
Only in one area.
but word travels, people talk. I mean,
So true.
And like we
Yeah.
talked about before, the
There.
traffic through Rahab's house.
but
That
still
were
cool that they knew.
Isn't it? Okay?
Don't you imagine God was in control and made sure about that?
Absolutely. And look at the culture. I mean, you
All
know.
roads go to God. Yeah, I know, not to Rome.
So they acted craftily and deceitfully.
Right. I
So
know.
they're different than these kings. They just came, we're going to war. And Gideon goes,
They were
we're
humble.
going to go a different route.
They were humble, not proud like that.
So covenant is a
Solemn
Solemn binding agreement that cannot be broken, made between two parties. And I put in parentheses, made by walking between the pieces. From covenant, what do you remember some of the customs of the things that you had to do? If you cut covenant.
They literally cut the animals and walked between
Correct.
them.
Correct. Signifying what? What did that signify? Because God did that with Abraham.
Exactly.
And Abraham had to physically cut him.
And God walked.
God walked between the pieces. Okay, we talk about marriage.
Your family is, it,
Yes. And may God do to me as he did to those animals if I do not keep covenant. So blood is shed. Typically there's a covenant meal. There's a solemn binding agreement. I will, you will, whatever. But it takes both parties acting. Okay? Sadly, Israel acted with giving us. Saddest verse. Israel did not seek the counsel of the Lord.
that was,
Have they done that before in Joshua?
Yes.
Yeah, Lynn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. So
Don't
I
you
don't
think-
judge them so harshly because it's like, yeah, why don't I learn? Why do I repeat? Because I do not seek the counsel of the Lord. Then I do, then things go well, great, and then I go on and make a decision, and then I did not seek the counsel of the Lord, and that was stupid, and I did it again.
But they thought they knew. Like, this is the rules, this is what I'm supposed to
Right.
do, like, these
Right.
people aren't from here, so we're good. Like,
Right.
this is what we're supposed
Exactly.
to do. So they thought they were obeying.
They did. Judy?
They didn't do their due diligence though, because Gibeonites said their elders and all the inhabitants of the country spoke to them saying, take provisions, blah, 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 go make treaty. And they would have come with some sort of valid identification.
Right.
So Israel didn't even ask. So
Joshua
how do we
did.
know you?
Joshua
are-
did ask.
Joshua
So
did.
He threw the question out there as suspicion, but he didn't follow
He
through
didn't
on it.
follow through.
No.
He didn't follow through.
But-
He took their word.
it kind of tells you that his gut reaction was the one he should have followed.
Exactly.
Right.
He's like,
Right.
how do I know that you're not? Oh.
But everybody seems to think this is a good idea, so
Right.
okay.
And I don't like
Exactly
either,
it.
and peace is good.
Right? We just had this great battle at AI, so what could this hurt? Yeah.
Well, and who would actually pull off this great portrayal? I
Right?
mean,
And who would be brave enough to even come to
Right.
Israel and ask him that?
Right, put on this huge act, and it was believable.
Totally believable. Okay? So they made peace with people living in their land, because they were deceived. Now you know, this is deception led them into a violation of what God had said. Deception led them into a violation. I'm like, oh, do I do that? I do that. My flesh can deceive me. My eyes can deceive me. People can deceive me. I can believe them, and it's not true. And then I violate God's law. Not intentionally. The Israelites did not do it intentionally. And God knew that. However, there are still consequences for violating God's law. Okay? 3 days later. Like 3 days earlier. They just find out that they got deceived. No. Yeah, we've all been there. We have all been there.
and we'd be.
And first you look at yourself. Like, stupid. Though you know, Joshua, the whole leader's been stupid. We know better than, we know. And they did that. But then what came after that?
The people start to groan.
They were mad because they know the repercussions. This is land we're supposed to own. We're
They just
supposed
have
to
the whole
wipe
thing. They know what
everybody
happens
out.
with sin.
Right? They know. They
You better,
know.
yeah.
We know what we do. So why do they go and they go to their 4 cities? Why do they do that?
Well, to
You
show
can't do
that,
anything.
to show that they know they've been deceived, and You know, they didn't do anything, but it had to have been pretty intimidating because how quickly did the people agree to become their slaves?
Right.
Because, and this is just my assumption on.
Oh, you're
okay,
saying in the covenant, we will agree to be your slaves. Isn't that a little odd?
No, I don't think they agreed to be their slaves in the covenant. I'm saying that when Israel showed up in their 4 cities and said, you lied to us and you deceived us, I think for the Gibeonites, that would have nullified covenant
Oh.
or the promise. And so they're like, you do whatever you want.
Right.
Because they were not honorable.
Well, and they didn't have any conditions. They're just like, well,
Exactly.
we're in covenant, and you fight for me, and we can fight for you.
Well, they
That's
didn't
it.
do the covenant with Israel. They didn't do the covenant with God either. So God could have, at that point, just destroyed them without
No.
Israel fighting.
No, they couldn't.
Well, yes, but to them, in their mind,
Oh, yeah. I
In
can
their
see
mind.
that. In their mind.
they don't understand the God and Israel covenant.
Oh, Gibeon.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gibeon.
Right.
But they said in a 9:8 that they said to Joshua, we are your servants.
We are your servants.
Yeah.
That was
Okay.
the very beginning when they first walked up.
Yeah.
Right. Because we want to we're your
Well,
friends.
that's how they show that they're humbling themselves.
Right, we're your
Yeah.
friends. We want to make covenant with you
Yeah.
because that means your enemies are my enemies. So when somebody comes and attacks you, I help you. And when somebody comes and attacks me,
Ally.
you come and help me because they know that's a covenant. It's just
Right.
it wasn't select to Israel. Maybe I should say that.
Yeah.
It was
Okay.
Middle Eastern.
Well, and they also told Joshua, they had come from afar.
Afar, way
So
far
they
away.
are.
So it should be okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Should be okay.
Right.
They know they were going to get found out.
They
had
did.
They had to have known.
They had
They
to know
did
they were gonna find out.
eventually, but
Yes,
that we didn't
exactly.
know
They
how
at least trusted the
long.
covenant enough, knowing that, hey, we're going to get found out, but now we have a covenant, so that will give us. some
Maybe
protect
that's
us.
a good thing to put next to those verses. Gibeon got found out,
Yeah.
and now the congregation is against their 4 cities.
Yeah.
Just skip 4 cities
That were close.
that were close,
Right.
which really made them mad.
Yeah.
But they can't fight them. They can't do anything to them. It's like if you come against Gibeon, you come against Israel. That's simple as that.
So
Now I have to fight for these people that deceived me. Look,
Yeah,
that
they didn't
stinks.
sin, so now I'm scared to fight because we went in and one person sinned and we lost.
There we go. Yeah. So, but we would sin if we didn't keep covenant, so it's like, ugh.
They knew also that the covenant is forever.
They did.
It's
Yes,
amazing
they did.
what they know.
And they
those people.
used that against Israel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's even deeper deception, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That's worse than lying.
More
That's
than that, it was a use for her own protection.
Yeah.
right.
It wasn't a due to.
Worked
Israel.
really well.
Selfish. Yeah.
This is better than death.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that's smart. That's smart. Now they made them wood hewers and water hewers, drawers, haulers, whatever. What did Israel have to do in Egypt? Now, I hope you thought about that.
What did Israel want?
Israel had to do in Egypt
They,
for 400 years.
Oh, make the bricks.
They were the
and
builders. They made the
and all
bricks.
that.
They-
Out of
Slaves.
straw.
Straw, yes.
Water, mud, tramping down the straw. So what were they?
Yeah.
That's what they were.
Yeah.
I feel like some people are going, okay, we can do this. I don't want to do this anymore anyway.
Right?
So yeah, let's take some
Okay, well,
slaves.
this will benefit me sometimes
They can't
because
take
it
any other slaves.
wasn't just for the Lord's house. It was also for the
For the
whole
congregation.
congregation of Israel, which equals how many people?
2 million or so.
Yeah. So now you know what a great city Gibeon and its 4 cities,
All the
whatever.
other cities, they had to kill everybody that breathes.
Exactly.
So
Right.
these are the only slaves they're going to get. So, in a selfish thing, is when the
There you
people
go.
in Israel are like, hey, we
So,
just got some slaves out of this.
I had to make the deceit feel a little bit better. Okay. They were content to be their slaves, and how do I know it's forever?
It's
Because they made covenant.
It's a covenant. Sometimes covenants aren't forever because they're broken or they're for this certain amount of time or whatever. But we know this was forever because verse 23 said, "You will not cease to be our slaves." Okay, but then you had cross references. Here's why they weren't supposed to make a covenant. Okay, that was page 38 of your homework. Exodus 23. So we know if we're going back to Exodus, where was the giving of the law, the 10 Commandments? Exodus 20.
12?
I think it's 12,
20?
20. I think it's 20.
20.
Okay? So this is only chapter 23. And it's telling you not to do what?
covenant.
No covenant
Don't make a
with them.
covenant with the inhabitants of Canaan. But why?
Because they'll lead you into sin.
They will lead them to their.
They will
their
lead them
stuff,
into
yeah.
sin. Mainly what sin? Idol worship. Right.
Idolatry.
They'll mainly lead you into idol worship, and then God has to deal with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Did they? This is a very interesting question that I'm pondering. Okay. Again, once you do your homework, I hope you close it, and the rest of the day you're going. And I wonder if they did. And how would I feel if? Did they know? And I hope you're asking yourself those questions, because who got land on the east side of the Jordan?
Reuben, Gad, and half Manasseh.
Right. So they already know they've got their land. Did they know their territories before the book of Joshua?
No, that was.
What
No,
did I spend?
they did,
Yes,
because
they did. I
Moses
spent
gave
2
it
weeks
to
on
us.
that, telling you this tribe got this land, this is the boundary, this
Yeah.
one. Okay. So when they cross over the Jordan, who knows they're standing on their land when they crossed over?
The rest.
I mean, eventually they have to fight for it. But whose land would that have been?
9.5
Yeah,
tribes.
the rest of the tribes.
Manasseh.
Specifically.
And
Out of the tribe of Manasseh. Okay, look at your
Judah,
map.
Benjamin,
Manasseh, Ephraim,
Simeon.
maybe Benjamin. Because they haven't had any campaigns yet. They haven't gone down, up, out. But they know when they cross over that Jordan, some of the tribes know this is ours, right
Gilgal and
here.
Jericho were definitely Manasseh.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay? This is our land. Even the men that were circumcised, some of those men would have been of the tribe of Manasseh. And they would know, I'm sitting on my land. We have crossed over. We're not in the 40 years of judgment anymore. I'm on my land. Boy, what would that have felt like? To know your ancestors died out of disobedience, but you're standing on it. Claim it. Take possession of your possessions.
Whose tribe was Gilgal in?
Gilgal is in Manasseh's, at the
Was it?
very bottom corner.
Benjamin.
It's hard to tell
It's
that
in
now.
Benjamin.
Is it
Benjamin,
It's
yeah.
hard to tell that because it's not labeled on the one.
This one's
I say, not according to the map that she gave us,
Doesn't that say Benjamin right underneath Gilgal?
But it's under.
but it's under the line.
There's a border.
Gilgal is
Under
at the bottom of Manasseh. Because it's above the line.
Oh,
Yes.
see, wait, the map you gave us has Jericho and Manasseh. It has Jericho and Manasseh, but this one has Jericho and Benjamin.
Oh, this is better.
See, that's what,
The
yeah,
map you
Jericho
gave
is
us has
inside
Jericho
Benjamin.
in Manasseh.
But Gilgal's right out of it, just like she said.
Yeah.
It's in Manasseh.
Half
Right.
of the Manasseh,
The
yeah.
property dividing line is in between Gilgal and
Right.
Jericho.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Where was I going with that? Oh, they knew the boundaries of the land. So they knew the territories of Gibeon when they made it
Right.
had to
That's what she
be
gave us. It has Jericho.
outside right there,
This was that.
right?
At the beginning.
So they know who they're supposed to make a covenant with and who they're not. All right?
I know, it's different.
2 Samuel. I'll pull out one that I have from that
So
room.
this one has different.
That one.
This one shows Jericho in Manassas. The one that Kay gave us shows Jericho in Benjamin.
That's interesting.
Sorry, I just thought that was, this is the one I was looking at, and then they mentioned, I was like, wait,
Yeah.
they're not.
The color
Gilgal
code
and
for me
Jericho are
is
both
this.
in Manassas on this one.
And again, remember, these cities are not
What is that map?
specific.
This is the one from the PowerPoint sheet.
Yeah. When I went over the 12 tribes, 6 in one and 6 on the other. But
Oh.
we have another one too in that book that I have. I will pull that out at the end, just so I don't waste
One
my
book
time.
didn't show the
That one.
tribes.
So where is it on that one?
Where's Jericho?
Jericho's in where
Manasseh?
Uh-huh.
Is in Manasseh, and this one is in Benjamin.
It's on the
Yeah.
border line.
Yeah.
Kay
on the
gave us
border.
in Benjamin.
Like I
It's
say,
on the
and
border.
hers.
But Dot,
These
could
are
be
very
farther.
freehand drawings.
You're right.
On the
You're right about
border
that.
Of Benjamin and Manasseh. Jericho's on Manasseh's side.
And again, the purpose of all that is to go, did they know when they went into a certain boundary
Oh, no.
here? This is my ancestors' land that they died for in the desert.
I don't know. We don't even know.
Here.
They have Bethel and 2 different ones on these. There's a lot of cities that aren't on the same as these.
Even on
Because
hers.
again, remember, this is where
There
they
are.
think they were.
Right.
And then archaeological digs will move them from where they were because they actually found the remains,
some of
and they
these-
move them to a different place.
Yeah, some of these maps
So-
have question marks by
Yeah.
the name.
Yeah.
Which, a lot of these
Okay, here's
things-
one. Jerusalem's on 2 different. On yours, Jerusalem's in Judah. On this one, Jerusalem's actually in Benjamin. But Jerusalem's in Judah.
Jerusalem's in Judah.
This one's not correct. The one for K is not correct.
Mine's on the wrong
And this
side,
is
Jerusalem.
20 years old.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, 20 years
It's
old.
true. So things have
Excavations
changed.
in
So let's go with this
Israel.
one.
Yeah.
Both maps might be wrong by now. Back to your
On the-
cross references. 2 Samuel. What's that about? What's happening?
Where are we, honey?
Page 39 of your homework, 2 Samuel 21. What's happening in 2 Samuel?
There's a famine.
There's a famine.
Famine.
Right. Who's inquiring of the Lord of why is there a famine?
Bloody house of Saul.
David.
David.
It is.
And what does the Lord tell him?
Because of Saul's.
Mm.
What did Saul do?
Saul said a while back, which is interesting to me.
He did
Did
heal,
slaves
keep on
and
it. Keep
He
heal, whatever
attacked
it does.
Gibeonites.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to do
He
that.
didn't honor the covenant.
How do we know that Saul knew the covenant?
Oh. He saw.
How do we know?
Well,
Because
he was
kings had
king and he was
to.
required to read
He reads.
everything.
He was actually required to write
Yeah.
Mm.
a copy of the law for himself. So he knew the Gibeonites are under covenant. You may not touch
I
them.
think it's
Right.
he tried to kill them, but he didn't apparently succeed.
Oh, he did. He
But
did.
he
If you read the
never
whole chapter,
Yeah.
Israel was actually required, David was actually required to give people
Well, no,
to be
no. But
hung and.
Saul tried to
Right.
kill the Gibeonites, but he didn't succeed at killing all
All
of
of
them.
them.
because
Oh, no,
they were
not all of
there.
them.
But
So
some.
that's
But
why
none
my
of them
thing
should
is
have
he
been touched.
didn't succeed. He tried to kill them, but didn't succeed.
But none of them should have been touched.
Right.
Oh, I know.
They should have been protected because Gibeon equals Israel.
Right.
I wonder if the
that?
reason that he didn't completely kill them is because God protected them.
Mm.
Because he tried to
Right,
kill them,
'cause
and
God
he was
keeps
big enough to
covenant.
kill them, but he didn't.
Because God keeps covenant. And again, they're probably good warriors as well. If you do the math, that covenant's 400 years old. Does that negate it?
No.
Thank God. Because, if you ever want to read a great story, 1 Samuel 20 with Mephibosheth, just go read 1 Samuel. When you read, if it wasn't such a weird name, Daniel would have been named Mephibosheth. Because that's who we are. This is Jonathan's son. Jonathan's son was lame in both legs, yet he's a prince.
Right.
He is a prince. Should have been dead. He thinks when David sends out to see if any Jonathan's family's out there, that David just wants to do that so he can kill him. No, he wants to set this lame, crippled man at the king's table because of covenant. That's you and me. We sit at the king's table. Lame, scarred, doesn't matter. Because of covenant, we're there. So Mephibosheth, because of covenant, was spared. Now, there is another guy named Mephibosheth, which is Ishbosheth's son, I think it is. So when you read, there are 2 of them. The Mephibosheth, which is Jonathan's son, was not handed over. The other one was. So again, covenant saves life. Why did she have to go to Matthew 26 on page 40 of your homework? And Hebrews. Why go there?
Well, because this is the new covenant.
Which is where we live. I'm so glad we live in a new covenant. Oh, what grace. Man, what grace. How is Jesus' death a covenant?
Shed blood.
Blood of the covenant,
Shed
yes.
blood. His perfect blood. Who initiated that covenant? But why? I didn't do
His
anything.
love.
I wasn't even born. Just because he loved me. That's it.
His love, yeah.
He valued my life. So life has value. And he didn't just come to die for me. He came, who would believe? He came to die for those who wouldn't believe and would actually crucify him in hate. That's who he came to. That's love. Hebrews 10 and 13. Again, that's one of the best studies, I think, on the planet is Hebrews. What do you learn from chapters 10 and 13?
That it's His blood that sanctifies us,
And it allows us to do what?
allows us to go before Him.
Anytime I want. In whatever situation I'm in whatever condition I'm in, I get to go. I get to go right into the presence of the Lord, because as a Christian, I have the presence of the Lord. He indwells within me only because of covenant. Only.
I will never desert you, no.
And
I
there you go.
never forsake.
Yep.
So I'm forgiven.
I won't remember their sins no more. That's the part that
That's
stood out
the
to me.
thing.
Yeah.
Is, all of this we're reading, and it's they sin, and then there's all these consequences,
Right.
and God punishes, blah, 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 but we don't, our covenant with God is
Washed, clean, man.
regardless of our sins.
Right. And His presence is here, and His partnership is with me forever. He never says, well, I don't like what you did anymore, so I don't want to do this anymore. Or I don't love you, or I'm not in love with you anymore. No, that partnership is forever. I signed on the dotted line, but this is just really not convenient for me anymore, so I'm going to leave. That does not happen. God does not do that. Hebrews, again, great book. Joshua 10, you had to have a theme. And yes, this was a very long chapter. But there was a lot to conclude in it. If you had a theme and you had to summarize what chapter 10 was about,
Long.
and about
Kings.
How many?
Oh, 31.
5. Well,
Oh,
that's
five. Yeah, total.
That's 12.
I
5
told
kings,
destroy
Amorite kings, and what
survivors.
happens?
They attack Gideon.
And yes,
Well, I just put Joshua defeats kingdoms of south and takes the land.
south and takes something good. Good.
I put in there that they attacked Gideon, because the reason they even attacked is because they were defending Gideon. So
Right.
So they attacked Gideon. And
I love how this story starts out, because when you read, verses 1 to 5, it came about when Adonai-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, heard that Joshua had captured Ai and had utterly destroyed it, just as he had done to Jericho and its king. So he had done to Ai and its king, and that the inhabitants of Gibeon had made peace with Israel.
Now they were going after Gideon.
And where is Gibeon now?
And Israel's
Yeah.
land.
Within their land, that he feared greatly. Not because of Ai, because Gibeon was a great city, like one of the royal cities, and because it was greater than Ai, and all its men were mighty. So guess what Israel just gained?
Very strong.
Very
Slaves.
mighty men out of a royal
Slaves.
city that's ginormous.
I thought-
So now they don't have 601,730 valiant warriors anymore. I don't know how many they have now.
Because they have to learn a new number.
God, we got to learn a new number whenever that
I
comes
thought it was
in.
interesting they attacked Gibeon, which Gibeon
Right.
is a fortified city where Israel's
Of their
in
own.
camps. Like, why, if they attack Israel where they're in camps, they're
Right.
easy to be attacked.
Right.
Versus Gibeon's in fortified cities and a huge royal city.
So why attack Gibeon?
I mean, I don't think
It's
they're
their own.
Israel.
Because of what they did. He's mad because they made a covenant, which he knows is a solemn binding agreement, and now Israel has to fight against Gibeon because they're in covenant with them, and Israel keeps covenant because he knows the God of Israel, God keeps covenant. Yada, 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 yada. You see that? This is why he's mad.
I thought that they thought they could trap Israel. Like, we'll fight Gibeon, so Israel come up, and then they'll be even more.
It
out
doesn't
there.
say that.
It
I don't
says,
know.
says
for it
because
has
of
made
Gibeon.
big peace with Joshua.
He's mad because
Before,
they made
yeah.
peace. Who had he just lost out of his army? I don't even know. But he knew they were all valiant warriors, and now they're
They
not on
made
his
peace,
side.
Yeah.
They're on Israel's side.
Let us
That ticked him off. So he wants other kings to be ticked off with him. So let's get these other 5, right? Or 4 Amorite kings so they can get ticked off with me, and we're going to go against one of our own because of what they did. And we'll show them you can't do that. Yes, you can. So it's always fear, right? He knew what they did to Ai, but he's mad about what Gibeon did. So the fear of Ai is there, but he's more mad at Gideon. Because now Gideon equals Israel, Israel equals Gideon because of covenant. So here's the common result. How does it apply to you? Put yourself in Gideon's position. Should they be afraid of Adonai-Zedek and his other 4 kings that are coming after them?
They got some buddies.
Shouldn't be afraid. They were crafty and deceitful. But they got what they want. They got protection from Israel. Plus their army. Plus God.
Yeah, exactly.
They've seen him fight. He doesn't fight for all of the rules. He fights different. We never fought against an enemy like that. Because we don't know what he's going to pull out of his pocket. I mean, walls fall down flat. You know, confused.
Stones coming.
Right? How's this? Verses 6 to 14. The king of Gibeon sends for Israel. How come he can do that? Hey, we're in covenant. So if I got enemies coming against me, you know what your job is. We'll be here. God assured them of victory. Do you think God was happy about the covenant with Gideon?
Probably not.
It doesn't make any difference whether he's happy about it
He
or
must
not.
have been honored them anyway because they were keeping it.
Right.
That's his grace.
Yeah.
That's his grace.
I like verse 9. Joshua came upon them suddenly by marching all night.
All
like
night
he heard
long.
and they just left. They
Just
didn't
left.
wait like, oh yeah, we got a covenant, but we'll be there. It was, get up, we're walking all night. We're gonna
Because
fight.
he took covenant seriously.
Which doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
You don't walk all night and fight a battle. Like that's like, we're usually
Right? I'm going to be exhausted. My whole men are going to be exhausted.
But
Right.
he
And
got up,
that's
left
why
in the middle of the
God
night and
went.
went.
Because this is what Joshua does. This is the character of Joshua.
And it was climbing. I read it was a 4,000-foot steep terrain.
4,000 feet.
Because they're in the hill country, remember? They keep
Oh, that's
calling
right.
this the hill country.
And it
That's
says, come
right.
up to us quickly.
Yeah.
Don't make me march up that at night. It's not going
So
well.
we're going to be exhausted.
Yeah.
And I don't exactly have my LED flashlight.
I know. Like
Yeah.
there's wolves, there's all kinds of stuff out there, you know. Like,
Scorpions. Yeah. Okay. How did God fight? I love this. I'm like, do what? You did what?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You know,
He can use anything.
he can use anything because he created it all. It's all under his command. So he can use it all.
If he can part the seas, he
He can, right? He struck them
Mm.
with a great blow. He chased them.
Uphill.
What would that feel like? I mean, okay, put yourself now in a warrior's position, okay? Something is chasing you. But it isn't in this
We're
part.
running uphill.
nothing that they
let's
can
run
really see.
fast.
Can they see it? I don't know, but it's not an
But they know it's
Israelite.
coming.
But God is chasing them.
But they can sure see the
The hailstone, they can feel that, okay?
right.
God causes the sun and moon to stop standing
My
still.
goodness. He's so awesome.
I think it's interesting. God was more active in this battle than any of the other
Yeah.
battles.
So
like
what?
the others, like Jericho, he told them what to do, and then the trumpets blew it down. I mean, there's stuff there,
Right.
but like this is like God actually physically throwing hailstones at the people.
Right. From heaven.
From all the
And
battles,
he killed
this
more
is the
people
one that he's
than
more-
Israel did with the
Yeah.
sword.
Right.
I thought it was interesting that this is the one that he wouldn't even agree with the covenant, but he's more active in this fight than any other fight.
Again, does that not show his seriousness about covenant?
Right. Exactly.
It does not matter.
So to Joshua, even you didn't.
Would this not be a great story to tell people, I have to clean myself up before I come to Christ, and I'm too bad, I've got to straighten my life up. And don't take me to that New Testament stuff. Because I know, let me take you to Gibeon then. let me tell you about the Gibeonites. And it doesn't say that they ceased their idol worship. It doesn't say that they
They didn't
ceased their
circumcise.
lifestyle. It doesn't say they got circumcised. It doesn't say anything except that they cut covenant with Israel. And then who became their mightiest warrior to fight for them.
God.
Yeah. And fighting with only his arsenal. Yeah. Do we have that arsenal? Be careful how you answer.
We actually
We actually do. Right,
Yeah.
right. Because if God is on our side, who can be against us?
Yeah, what can man do to me?
What can man do to me? Right? Because who's calling on him to make the sun and the moon stand still?
Joshua.
Joshua, and in that day, God listened to the voice
Because of a man.
So Jenny, what's the correct answer to what can man do to me?
Well, he can take my life.
No, he can't take your life.
Not
He
unless
can
God
send you
gives
into the presence of God.
There you go. There you go. It may look like he has the power over me, but only
Yeah.
God numbers my days.
Right.
Have you ever heard of the book Table in the Presence? It came out back when, like, early 2000s with the Afghanistan, Iraq wars and everything. It's a chaplain that went overseas to fight in the front lines when we went in after September 11th, and he talked about all the miracles that happened.
Really?
Like, this kind of miracles that happened over there with our soldiers fighting.
Table in the presence.
A table in the presence. I haven't read it in a long time. I read it back in the early 2000s when it came out. But it was, it just.
Oh,
it
looks like
it's
table.
so, I mean,
Table
it's
in
a
the
chaplain,
presence.
a table in the presence. Yeah, it's a chaplain that went in front lines. I think it was Marines. I could be wrong, but he went in the front lines and it tells the stories of people getting saved, the stories of like miracle things that happen in the fights. I mean, so many miracles
I
happen.
love that.
Anyway, so it's kind of stories you
Oh,
don't
my
ever get
kind
to
of
hear,
book.
right?
Right? I
Anyway.
love stories like that.
Hopefully it's a thick book.
The thick, right?
I used to keep some when I traveled a lot and keep them in my suitcase and give them to military people when I saw them in the airport.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Because, like, I
Especially
mean,
the holidays
when they're
coming.
going and they're scared, going overseas for whatever reason, knowing that they can have God on their
Yes.
side. So I used to be, I don't travel as much anymore, but I used to do it all the time.
I'm gonna have to look that up. I'm gonna have to, because I love stories like that. Anyway, okay, verses 15 to 27. Again, we're just listing things that this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what, because you want to condense it. You want to go, this is what this chapter is about, and it's a long chapter, okay? So, like we said, verses 15 to 27, where do they all go now?
Back to Gilgal.
Back to Gilgal, because this must be where the camp is set up, with the ark in the middle, because it doesn't say anything about the ark going with them. Not here. What happens? What did the 5 Amorite kings, these mighty kings,
They
that are
went to
supposed
the
to be coming
cave.
against Israel because they're really mad at Gibeon?
Yeah,
What happens to
they
them?
ran and hid.
The cave, yeah.
Well, aren't they supposed to, when the time when kings go to war?
Right.
I wonder
Where
if
are
do,
they?
though.
Well,
were
they
in
went,
one
but
that
they deserted.
They went, but they deserted, right? And how did
They
they all
ran.
5 get back together? I don't know.
How did Joshua know where they were? Because there's so many caves back then. Like,
It just
maybe
said
somebody told.
It was
maybe
told
God.
to him.
Yeah.
Right?
Was it God that told
I
them?
don't
Did somebody,
know.
like, deflect and go, hey, you see
Right?
their life?
Hey, you know, the 5 kings are over there.
There were so many caves back then. Like, they're all over the place.
I
So,
know. Well, so he names the king, the cave.
Yeah.
Okay, they're there, and what are they doing? Another battle plan?
They're hiding. Oh, they put the stone.
Put yourself in these kings'
Stone.
positions. I'm seeing hailstones from heaven that are killing more of my men than the Israelites are actually killing with my sword. And the sun is staying up. It should be going down by now, and it is still up there. What is that? What kind of God is that? So let
That's
me
right.
go.
Hide.
Yeah.
Can you get away from the presence of the Lord?
No.
They don't know that. They don't know that. But this is some kind of war they have never been in before, and there's no battle plan for that. I don't know. So when my men are going to ask me what to do, I'm not going to know what to do. So
All right.
I think I'm going to go hide a cave. And funny, all of them did that
Yeah.
in the same cave. Okay,
They
so
must have been together.
They
what
care about
does?
their people a lot. I mean, like, we're
Huh?
just gonna hide here and let my people fight for me, and I'm good.
There you go.
They're not going down with the ship.
Look at how that works out for you.
Hailstones were coming down, so they're taking cover.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, I'd be looking for a cave.
Me too. Me too. All right, let me get out of these hailstones. And they weren't small.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just know that. Okay? So Israel knows they're there. Do they leave them alone?
Track them.
No, they travel.
Why don't they just kill them right there?
That's what I thought was interesting. Like, we'll deal with you later. Here's a stone.
Let them be scared a little bit more.
Who told them to put those stones?
Joshua.
Joshua told them
Well,
to do
what's
that.
interesting, Joshua says, so assign men to guard it, but do not stay there yourselves. So is he assigning Gibeonites to guard it and taking Israel
I think he's
away?
assigning the chiefs
Okay.
of these armies to keep pursuing your enemies, but
Right.
put some of your guys
Okay.
There.
to just guard
Right.
that and put the stones in front of them
Because
to
the
make sure they
Gibeonites
don't
are
get out.
fighting with it too, so
Yes,
they
they
might
are.
be mixed in, so they could have, I don't know. Anyway.
And that's a good thing to write in your scripture, right? In your Bible, Gibeonites and Israel is fighting against these 5 kings. This is not just Israel. Gibeon is fighting too because they have to keep covenant.
Right.
What happens if they break?
Uh-oh.
They lose their
No, Mom.
protection.
They
Yeah.
lose their protection. And
Well-
they're not going to do that.
And their city being attacked forms an allegiance. They now have skin in the game.
Yes,
They're
they do.
passionate about
They got
the
families they
defense.
got to protect. You're right.
So jumping ahead, when they go fight the north, does Gideon go with them to fight the north?
They have to.
So they do. So
They
it's
have
Gideon
to.
and Israel fighting the north. I didn't put that together until just now.
Gibeon's men are now part of
Yeah.
the 730,000 plus Gibeon's valiant warriors. They have to be because that's covenant. Your enemies are my enemies. Your friends are my friends. Your family to protect, my family to protect. And if I don't, may God do to me that we have done to these pieces that we've walked through. Serious, serious stuff. Because who's going to watch over that covenant? God, who throws hailstones and makes the sun stay up and
All kind of.
just that God. Okay? So they pursue any that fled the battle. Okay? Now Israel goes back to the cave with the kings. And they take the stones away. Then what?
They bring them out for them to
Hang.
defend.
Right. Specifically, what does Joshua tell them to do?
Put those stones in.
Open.
Bring them out.
Do not fear. Be
How many
dismayed,
of them
strong
are there?
and courageous. There's
Strong and
There's
courageous.
5. So
Put their foot on
So
the
they-
that's right. Put their foot on their neck.
Lay
Lay
them down.
these guys down here.
Yep.
You put your foot on their neck.
Mhm.
These are scary men. These are kings. They don't get to be kings just because they're a little lumpy king of hearts type of guy, like Ahab. These are Amorite kings. They're supposed to put their foot on them. Victory. Who kills them?
Joshua.
Joshua kills them. How does he kill them?
He strikes them.
And
then
then
hangs them.
hang.
And then hangs them. So are they dead before they're hung, or are they dead because of hanging?
Well,
Before
they
they're
put them
hung.
to death.
It said
You
he
think
struck
they're
them
dead?
because it was dead,
Yes.
and he hung them on the
Then-
tree.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a double death.
So see, this is important. This is why you write down what happens and who does it. Because it wasn't the chiefs that did that. It was Joshua. I don't know why. I don't know why, because each of them could have just taken the sword and hacked off the head like they did with Goliath.
And they'd already destroyed most of the cities at this point, right?
Yes, correct. Okay?
'Cause normally they hang them for like a public display, like, hey, you act like this, but their cities are gone. So
Gone.
it's not like their cities can see them hung.
Right. Why does he take them down by sundown, do you think?
God says so.
That's a Jewish.
That's a Jewish,
Jewish
thing.
thing.
Culture
Yeah.
thing.
That's right.
Yeah, and I noticed that it was almost like he honored them in a way by following that
Right.
Jewish custom, because he could have just
Why?
left them hanging like dogs and let the birds eat them.
Life.
Yeah.
Life
Honoring
has
it.
value. These were sinful, evil men, but life has value.
He technically buried them by putting them in the cave of Rolling Stone. That's how they buried.
That's exactly right.
So,
That's right. Verses 28 to 43. Well, you could just write over that whole thing.
Let's go and take
Victory.
over the place where-
Victory over. Bam, 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 bam. Right?
some of these cities listed are ones that he already killed the kings.
Red sweater.
The one on
Because
the,
like Lachish is
Yeah,
one of them
right
listed
now.
here, but
Yes.
Lachish is one of the kings that was
Right.
attacking.
So this
some of
is
these
like a
are-
recap.
Yeah.
Yes.
We could say that this is and notice that Goshen, this really confused me. Because do you remember when Joseph went to get his dad and brought his dad back to Egypt, he put his dad, Jacob, in the land of Goshen. Because there is a land of Goshen by the Nile, the Nile Delta. The Nile Delta.
Yeah.
This is not Goshen. This is not the Goshen. Because that's not part of Israel's land. That's not part of the boundary. The Goshen is, it's actually on the map, isn't it?
It's not.
No, it's
No,
not.
Goshen was on the map.
Golan is, but Goshen is not.
Goshen is not on the map. It's not on either.
Goshen's way up here, way over here to the.
Yeah, Goshen's at the Nile. Apparently, what I was reading was that was the Goshen, was the one over the Nile.
Mm.
I couldn't find another
Yeah,
Goshen.
I
was
couldn't
looking
find
everywhere.
either.
I did too.
It drives
Me
nuts.
neither, but I'm thinking it because that's Egypt. He
it's
didn't
on
give them
the-
That's
Egypt.
what I was thinking
It's
too. I was like, that's a
Goshen.
long
It's
walk.
gotta be a different
Did- what do you
Goshen,
see?
but I'm
You
wondering
reading
what
it in
Did you
there?
find it?
It's around Debir, Deber.
Deber?
It's on the,
Which one? The one in the north or the one in the south?
Maybe south.
Because there are two of them.
We're talking
I
about
know.
that. Okay.
So-
Must be one in the south, the one
Yeah.
that they were talking about already,
South.
with the king that they were.
But what it's talking about is going west to east, right? Because on that one where it says from Goshen to.
Yes.
So it's going
Because
west to
north
east, so
to
it's got to
south
be
is-
something way
yes.
out to the west. The deer's over to the east. He's not to the west. It's got to be something far west, because that's.
But how do we know that? Because we do know that, but if you had to explain it to somebody, how would you?
Because he's giving me from here to here and here to here is where
Right.
they took all the land, and
Right.
it's from west to east is what he's talking about. So
Right.
it's gotta be something
And that
west.
land of Goshen in Egypt is not part of the boundary that
No.
he
That's why
specified
I
in
was confused
Deuteronomy.
too.
No.
So that's how we know it's not Egypt. It's not where Joseph's bones were buried, and how do we know that? There's another reason you know that that's not that Goshen.
Because he took.
Well, because they
with-
took him out of
with
Egypt.
when-
Yeah,
I mean,
Take
that's
Take
the
my
whole
bones
thing.
with you
Out.
when you go into the promised land.
land.
So that's obviously not
Goshen, yeah.
the promised land.
So do we think Goshen must be somewhere along in the wilderness of Judah, along the Dead Sea?
Well, if you see Gibeon, like she said, go east to west, could be. Could again, when we're looking at where these cities are within the tribes, that's always questionable because of the boundary lines that we don't have
Or is it
specifically
just that
today.
or is Goshen to Gibeon actually designating the south to north? Which would make sense putting
But the
it down there to the
Kadesh
deer.
is, because the first one's Gaza to Kadesh Barn, I can't say it. The
Yeah.
one way bottom.
The
Yeah.
Kadesh Barnea to
put that
Gaza.
yeah,
That's the first one, from there to
Geshur.
there, and then it says from
Wilderness of
Goshen
Paran.
to Gibeon.
So
you
Goshen must
so
be
you got
over
Gaza,
here somewhere.
Gaza to
That's
Kadesh
Gibeon.
Barnea, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's,
From here to here?
Yeah.
the first one
Right.
is Gaza to the one way down there,
Kadesh
and then it
Barnea.
said from whatever to Gibeon, which Gibeon's up where their camp is.
So Goshen's got to be
Yes.
down in this area.
That's
It's
what
got to
I'm
be in the
thinking.
wilderness of Judah,
It's somewhere down.
somewhere along the Dead Sea.
Just because of the context of where it's listed.
Exactly.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
To set that boundary.
There were quite a few of these that I couldn't
How
find.
many, we're gonna have 3 campaigns, right? Because we had arrow, arrow, arrow.
Right.
How many campaigns is this that we've covered so far?
Second.
One.
One.
This is one.
Yeah.
Does it say how
This is
long? Do we
just
have
this
any
area.
clue how long this was? Because it said there
We
was one
just
point
know
that
it
said
took a long
Joshua
time.
captured these kings and their land at one time. But
Correct.
I mean, of course, it's all one battle. Which can you imagine how exhausted they'd be? What I got to go at one time means they just kept fighting. They didn't take breaks.
Right.
I mean, of course, they probably slept, but like not like, hey, let's go back and reconvene
Well,
and fight again.
and think about it, we know that it had to take a while because, again, it's listed in chapter 11 and 12. It took Joshua a long time, even with that many people. And God said he's not going to give it to you in 1 year. And
Exactly.
I'm not going to give it to you in a short time. How come?
Because if he ran all the people off, they couldn't actually go in and reclaim the land before it.
They couldn't maintain the
They
land
couldn't
and do,
yeah.
and it would hurt the
What-
land.
Exactly.
Who's connected with the land?
God.
God is always connected with the land. Right.
But we're talking about putting yourself in position, so I'm thinking the wives and stuff back at Gilgad, like, they did this
Uh-huh.
all at one time, which means they haven't been home in a year or more. We don't know how long it
Well,
took, but
except they had a battle and then they went back to Gilgal.
they did go back that one time.
And then
the rest they
and
took.
then I don't know. See, did
Then
they
it
go
was a
back
long
to?
time.
Did they? That was their base, and then because they did, the arrow was here, 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 from Gilgal. So do they get? I don't know. They got to get resupplied somehow. They got to take their injured somewhere to get better. So I don't know. That's kind of the rules of war. I don't know. If you had to theme chapter 11,
Joshua conquers North. Don't lazy.
You know what? I think
I'm getting tired of that.
what's wrong with that?
Northern Kingdom's
I don't know with that
taken.
one.
And I wrote Hazor burned
Why is it important that we know about Hazor?
because it was the one that got burned.
Yeah,
It was. Hold on.
that's important to remember. What am I missing?
Obviously made it.
It was. I know. Things are obviously was bad somehow.
Somehow I'm missing my.
Hazer was
I don't
the
know, I'm so
There we
lost.
was the
Okay.
head of the
Was the
kingdoms.
head of all the kingdoms.
Hazer was
okay.
formerly was, as it says, the head of all the
Formerly,
So here.
we don't have
Okay.
that. Okay,
I know I write them somewhere.
it's very important that we know that the land had rest from war come chapter 11. I don't know how much time this has taken, but we do know that the land did at least have some rest from war. King Jabin of Hazor gathered the northern kings to battle against Israel at Merom. God mentions that specifically about King Jabin. Okay? Why would he tell Joshua not to be afraid? I mean, he's just done this. So there's 5 kings. Why would he be afraid? Why does he have to keep telling him that?
Well, each situation, might, you never know. Okay, and I know God, you said you're going to be with me.
Making it more center of the camp. There might be another audience.
That's where my mind goes. I'm like, okay, is there anything I need to know here? Did anybody do something that they should have done? And here
Right.
we go. And this also tells you he's consulting the Lord.
And the description of them actually lets you know that he's probably never seen a group this large before. Look at verse 4. They came out, they and all their armies with them, as many people as the sand that is on the seashore.
With many horses and
Very
chariots.
many
Because we haven't
horses
said
and
anything about
chariots.
horses and chariots much until this point,
So
too.
he's probably looking at something that looks a little bit
More Egypt-like.
Overwhelming.
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 And who, they're looking at who to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
don't mess up. Now, the horses and chariots, there's another thing in the law for kings. They're not to rely on horses and chariots. They're not even supposed to count the people because their trust is supposed to be in the Lord, not
Right.
in the horses and the chariots, because that represents Egypt and their might.
Yeah.
That's
So-
not where Israel's might comes from.
The start of this chapter, they're still back in Gilgal, right?
They went back to Gilgal, as
So,
far as I know.
They're gathering the armies way up here. Way. I mean, that's not close.
That is
That's
far.
a few day walk, I would think.
Right, yeah.
So, is Israel just supposed to surprise attack, or were they trying to come down to them, or that's why I was kind of confused, because it doesn't say the distance difference. Like, it says we gather the armies here, and then Israel attacked them. So,
Because who's coming to attack them?
so were they,
King Jabin is coming to attack them.
Yes.
So he has to go out to meet him, right, to battle. But again, it's not just King Jabin.
I just think it's interesting they gathered the
Northern
armies so far
kings.
north, rather than closer to where Israel
Why do they
was.
think they're coming to them?
Word of mouth?
Right? And, I mean, he could go north, he could go south, but as a king, I'd rather go on my terms. I'm ready. I've got my army together. I'm going to determine when we get to fight and when we don't. As far as battle is
a long
concerned.
ways to travel.
A very long way to travel for that one.
Well, just looking at the land of Israel and where their battles were, they're far away.
Yeah.
They are far. And that's exhausting.
That was around 30 miles from Gilgal to
According to
Merom.
that scale,
Yeah.
I think that's about right. But think about the mass of soldiers that you're moving
Right.
that far. Plus
That's a lot.
horses and chariots. Okay? Remember, if you could put that next to him, if the Lord tells Joshua not to be afraid, they're in communion. That means he's seeking counsel of the Lord. That's great. This is what you want. You can't put verse 14, they did not seek the counsel of the Lord. That is not what happened. Plus, when you're in a battle and you come out of battle, knowing you're going to go into another battle, you need somebody to tell you, don't be afraid. Don't be discouraged. I know the battles never seem to end, but I'm with you. I will never leave you. I won't forsake you. Don't be, what's the opposite of strong and courageous? Don't be
Dismayed.
or discouraged. Okay? He says he would deliver them into the hand. He didn't say when. But when does he do it?
It says for tomorrow at this time, I will deliver them. He does say
That's
that.
right. This one he does say. You're right. Thank you. Tomorrow. What a relief would that be? Tomorrow? You mean tomorrow? Oh,
What time is it? Okay.
I'm gonna have a good night's sleep. Thanks. Who's gonna fight this battle for me tomorrow? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I've seen what you do. You make walls fall just down flat, and we use hailstones, and we killed more people than we can, and you make the sun stay up. Yep, I'm good. I'm gonna take a good night's sleep.
And Jericho was only 8 acres, Hazor was 200.
Right. I think I said the fields at Lakeside
Lakeside,
were the
outside
size of
Jericho.
Jericho. And then how big was
200 acres is just the city of Hazor.
Just the one city.
It was all these conjoined highways that went to Egypt and went to. It was a huge trade port city.
It was the great.
It was the great city of Hazor. Which
Well,
makes me
well,
wonder where
well.
the haze.
Highways led to Egypt and Syria, Assyria, and Babylon.
Thank goodness, because they were they were running that direction.
Right. Okay.
Good road to run.
I love reading. I wish I could read this throughout the rest of the Old Testament. Joshua utterly destroyed them and left no survivors. No one who breathed was left alive. Because that's what God told him to do. So that's what he did. He completely obeyed. Why go back to Hazor and burn it? Why burn Hazor? Why not burn the rest of them? Why just Hazor?
It's an example.
True.
Other cities could see what can be done to this massive
Probably
cities.
had the most gods and stuff too. I mean, like, because he's talking about all the roads coming in. They got the Egypt stuff coming in. They got all these different things. It's the
That's
center
true.
of the gods.
Of
And
the
it was the king of Hazor, Jabin, who started this.
He's
Started
the
it.
one that initiated the battle to come against
And
God's
pridefully
people.
too. I mean, he thought that he would win. He didn't seem to.
They don't go in with the attitude that we're going to lose.
It doesn't. It doesn't say that he went in with fear, does it?
Nope,
No.
it does
No,
not.
The other ones, it's all they fear, so they attack.
Right?
He's
And we know
not
the ones
fearing.
that went against Gibeon were just mad because of Gibeon.
Right.
Yeah.
These guys know, here comes Israel,
And they're
And
not
we're gonna
afraid
go
of-
fight
They've
them.
heard the same
This is
story,
our
but it
land.
doesn't
You're not
say
taking
we're
our
gonna-
land.
Yeah.
right? I don't care what the rumors say, you're not taking our land. We're better than. And we're
Those
better
were
than.
little tiny cities. That's why they won. They can't beat us.
See?
You know, you can kind of look at the king of Hazor as a pharaoh.
That is very, you know what? And even in reading,
The
that was kind of
ego.
my attitude.
The horses, the chariots, then the ego.
Right.
My God,
And he wasn't by
I
himself.
am greater than, yeah.
He gathered all these other guys with him, okay? Now, what does that mean when it said on verse 13, however, Israel did not burn any cities that stood on their mounds except Hazor alone, which Joshua burned? What does that mean, stood on their mounds?
Most of these cities were probably fortified cities. They're on hills
Yeah, that's the better place to be so you
Yeah.
can see all your.
because that's
Enemies.
your protection.
Okay? And whenever I read mounds before, it was always idol worship.
I worship.
That's not what this means. It has nothing to do with it. It means they remain neutral because they didn't initiate it. Hazor initiated it, and then they couldn't remain neutral anymore. That's what that means. So that's why Hazor was burned and not them. Standing still in their own strength just means we didn't come up with this plan, but now we're grouped into this plan because this is where we are within the king of Hazor's territory.
Well, and down in verse 20 it says, "For it was the Lord that hardened their hearts to meet Israel in battle."
Good.
Just like Pharaoh, by the way.
That's why I went there, I think. That's why I think my head went there. So 16 to 20 is about
He took all the land.
they took all the land.
Yeah, it's listing up.
They struck them down
Areas.
and they put them to death.
No survivors.
Verse 18. These
Joshua
wars
waged
took a long
Long time.
See, the last one, the south one, it says all at one time. I mean, of course, it wasn't
One
immediate,
campaign.
but right. But this one says a long
A
time.
long time. Be the other people who haven't been in the third campaign yet watching this happen. They got to know they're next. Because they're in the land.
in the land.
They got to know they're next. They just don't know when. But it says, the second campaign, it took a long time.
I think I'd run. I'm gonna go be a nomad somewhere.
I want to go live in Egypt. Because, Gibeon made a covenant, but they're not going to be fooled by that again.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll go live in Gibeon.
Can I live with you guys? Yeah.
But no one else approached them.
that's the
No
thing.
one
My
else-
mother made peace
This little
with the
hatred
sons.
and battle, and no one else
Right.
Everybody.
feared for their lives enough to lay it all on the line.
Right. And you say go live in Gibeon. Well, that would be up to Israel. So whether they allowed them to go to Gibeon or not, and knowing where they were from, then we go.
Take some more out sandals and say that you're a nomad.
Right? Yeah, we shot for that one time before. The Lord initiated those kings coming after Israel. So, because they were wicked and evil.
Yeah.
So Israel was used by God to judge the evil.
To protect his people.
To protect his people. When you read Joshua killed the Anakim, where did your mind go back to? Because they're giants.
To Joshua and Caleb.
Out of
And
the
the other
12
ones,
that went
yeah.
in to spy the land
Yeah.
first. And
Yeah.
who kills them?
Joshua.
Finally.
Yeah.
I hope you
Except couple
could.
left in Gaza and
Yes. Yeah,
God
that's
and
right. There were
Ashford.
3 other places that
Yeah.
were still left.
And Gath is where Goliath.
Ah, that's good too. And we know he was a giant.
Yes.
We know he
Right.
was a giant.
Definitely.
And those are also along the sea. Those
Yes.
cities are on the
The Mediterranean. Right, right. I don't know, that's just got to be kind of a personal victory if he killed the Anakim, who kept him in the wilderness for 40 years. Not his fault, but Israel's fault.
Right.
Joshua took the whole land and he gave it for an inheritance to Israel, just as the Lord had spoken to Moses. Therefore the land had rest from war. But it took a long time. So what do we do with the battles that we fight and then we just think they're taking too long? This should have been
the
resolved by
victory
now.
will come.
The victory will come.
Yeah.
Only God knows how long.
Don't give up.
Don't give up. Don't get discouraged. Don't be dismayed. Right? Be strong.
And
Be
as you
courageous.
mentioned, they weren't ready for the victory.
And they weren't.
And neither are we.
Exactly.
Right? We think we
Little
are.
by little.
We think we are.
Yeah.
Right? We think life will be much better if we just, and if this could go away and this conflict right here would make it better. It's just, God,
We
it's
couldn't
not-
handle the victory in the one.
No, I don't think about that. How can you not handle a victory? A victory is a victory. This is a happy place. How can you not handle a victory? Have you not seen maybe sports people that have gotten a victory? I mean, there's a 20-year-old baseball player in the Astros and the Nationals. Thank you. Fighting now. Okay, he's younger than my son, making over $1 million. It'll be interesting to see how he handles that victory because he's so
There's some
young.
wise people.
I hope he has wise people around him. Yeah. Yeah.
Many of them don't.
They can't handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Judy.
We also need the disobedience of getting there. Joshua and the armies, as exhausted as they were, they still had to get off their tushes, put on their battle gear, climb the mountains,
Another
run
day of
across
battle.
terrain, march through the night and show up.
Right.
So the obedience of it is also, it's
That's a
to the glory of
discipline.
God. Yeah, it is.
And that's a growing up.
Right.
Yeah.
And
In
he
verse
did
22,
go.
I never got a chance because this was getting towards the end. I ran out of time. It says there were no Anakim left in the land of the sons of Israel, only in Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod, some from the range. But I thought they killed everybody. So how are there Anakim still?
Those weren't actually cities that they have gone in and
The refugees.
battled.
Conquered,
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's in the last campaign.
Yeah.
But Gaza's
The
way down the
45
south,
cities.
and it said from Gaza to whatever.
From
That was
Gaza
the last chapter said from
Yes.
Gaza to whatever. But it says that there were Anakim in Gaza. So
No.
how are there?
I want us
No.
to remember too that sometimes there's a summary that hasn't happened yet because
Right.
Joshua writes the whole thing. And he sometimes, again in Deuteronomy, they do that as well. Moses recaps a battle, and sometimes it's out of order.
Well, and they apparently
So-
didn't finish the job because
Well,
Goliath and
Goliath's
the rest
still
of
there.
Yeah, well, that's what when they brought up Goliath, that's what kind of went. I'm like, wait,
Right.
but then how are they still there if they utterly destroyed and killed everyone that breathed? So
And
I'm
just
kinda-
know that that happens. Sometimes they go back and they recap, but it hasn't happened yet. But they still recap it out of order. I don't know why that happens because it makes it really confusing. Because I'm like, did it happen or did it not happen? And did you utterly destroy them or did you
Did
not
you not?
utterly
Like
destroy
I
them?
said, these
I'm a little
cities were not
confused.
named as having been utterly destroyed either,
Yet.
yet.
Yeah.
Up to this point,
Up to
they've
this
not been
point.
named as having been utterly destroyed.
Right. And maybe it's as far as.
Or I wonder if it's
Yeah.
like I killed a wasp nest last night, and like when you kill a wasp nest, but there's some that are out,
And
and,
more
then they
came.
come back. So maybe like when they attacked, those are ones that were out traveling.
And we
then-
know
or-
that some fled.
Yes.
We know that because of him telling them, don't get preoccupied with the 5 kings in the cave. Seal them up and go after those that have escaped the battle.
Right.
Pursue them, kill them, then come back here. But we know that wasn't a one-time occurrence.
Yeah.
Couldn't have been.
Right.
Could have been. You had cross-references. What am I doing on time? Good, 10 minutes. Okay. Which was page 41 of your homework. You had Deuteronomy and Colossians. What about what you learn about leave no survivors?
Well, this is where it gave the specifics we talked about earlier. Cities that are within the land given by God to the Israelites.
Yeah.
Everything that has breath is to be destroyed.
But doesn't that sound cruel?
None left alive.
Again, playing devil's advocate. Doesn't that just sound like, but there's babies. There's men, women, and children, and old people, and you got to kill all those people. I mean, God loves life. That's just.
But they are idol
Except for
worshippers.
some types of cattle. Yeah, there's
something cattle and something else.
The things they took.
Yes, some
Yeah.
of the spoil. Some of the spoil
Yeah.
they're allowed to keep. Right. But why?
Because those people are evil worshippers.
And that
Yeah.
baby would grow up to be an evil worshiper
Yeah.
that would lead you astray
Right.
to do detestable things that this is what their culture does. You must totally annihilate them from your land. What if they run to a land that's not theirs and they escape?
Wow.
I mean, it's a question. Because there had to be people that escaped the land. There had to be.
They take the cows.
I guess if they were outside of Israel's land,
Then okay.
Well, and how do you? I mean, you can't.
I can't chase them to somebody else's land that's not my boundary.
You can't
Exactly.
build them all up. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
What if they come back into my land?
yeah,
Okay.
that's different.
That's different. That's different. It was God's protection. Okay? Now you think about, which sadly in the church, immorality is just not really taken very seriously in the church, or especially in the world anymore. But even in the church. Extramarital affairs, it's really bad. I hope you get your marriage back together. I'm going to divorce this one so I can marry that one because that'll make me happier. Sex before marriage, yeah, everybody's doing it. The list goes on and on and on. It's just not that big of a deal as it was when I was brought up in the church.
The big
I'm
thing now
speaking in the church.
The thing now is not getting married. People living together and refusing. It's just a piece of paper.
And going to church.
That's
the-
Finland.
We
That's
live
in
together
Finland.
and we go to church as a Bible-believing Christian, fully devoted follower of Christ.
We've made
With
it
sin in our
hearts,
camp.
but we haven't actually done paper. Is what you
There you go.
realize.
It's just a piece of paper. No, it's not. It's God's law. So why does God? What's the point? Just a piece of paper. So why do we have to do it? And it's not a big deal. Is it a big deal?
It's actually covenant,
It's covenant.
and so it's a lack of understanding.
Agreed. And I also, if you only wanted to do no sex before marriage and then remain faithful, STDs could be your number one topic. Among many other things, emotionally. But physically, it doesn't get any more serious than that, because you can actually go back and go, oh, but will I catch that? I don't know. Have you had sex with anybody besides your husband? And were you faithful to your husband forever and clean and pure before you both got married? Yes. Then you don't need to worry about that. Over and over. That is the same exact answer you can give to every single one, including AIDS. We'll get into blood transfusion, but that's rare anymore. Do you know what peace that brings? That's amazing, just in itself. Just in itself. Is God being mean? That's His perfect plan. It's a wonderful thing when you do it God's way. It's just a wonderful peace-giving thing when you do it God's way.
Can you imagine in the feet, the shoes of the Israelites, them having to go in and kill the women and children?
I cannot.
Like,
I cannot.
that'll change you.
I can't, because their mind has to go back to their families that they're protecting. It's got to go back to their sweet baby sleeping in their crib at home.
That's full obedience.
That is full
unbelievable.
obedience.
I mean,
Kind of like
And
Abraham, right?
he never says obedience is easy, does he? Never does.
That's why it's better to be Rahab than Joseph.
Right? Again, cities far away from Israel could be offered peace, which is why Gideon went.
But
Gideon
the men
somehow
were still
knew
to
that.
be killed.
Hmm?
The men were still to be killed in those cities.
In those,
Not the ones with peace. That was the ones that decided to fight.
Far away. Oh.
It
Right,
said
the far
that
away.
if they offer peace, if a city far away offers peace, then they can make a covenant with them.
because they're
If
far
they want
away.
if the cities far away want to make war, the men have to be killed, the women and children
There you
have to be
go.
saved
There you
and
go.
taken as plunder.
How does Colossians 3 go into this? How does that even apply?
Members of our body, same thing. Clean.
Okay, old self, new self.
Well, yeah.
Isn't that covenant? When you enter into the covenant with Christ, you
leave
have put
your
off your old
right.
self.
Old habits and
It's a perfect picture of the robe, the clothing of Christ that you've put on is that new covenant robe. Okay? We're
To
hidden
death
with
anything
Christ in
that's your
God.
Earthly nature.
Yeah, the
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay?
and isn't that easy? No.
No. Believers put on the new self. But that enables you to fight your spiritual battles. No new self, no victory. Okay, chapter 12, if you had to theme it. This one was pretty easy to theme, because what's it about? It's a recap.
Yeah.
It's a recap of what?
Kings of Israel, Joshua.
Right, how many?
And Moses. Some of them were Moses too.
Yeah.
So how many? I mean, the whole back page was
Hold on, it said.
Well, it's actually.
And all 31 kings.
31. There you go.
Said at the end.
Okay, so Joshua and Israel defeat
31.
31 kings in all. This is recap, battle recap. Okay, how does 11:16 to 12:24 fit together? Because that was one of your questions. And that's an easy question. What is it doing?
Those kings are coming together against Israel.
Good,
Just like
good.
those.
This is a whole summary of the kings against Israel. And they're named specifically, okay? So that's just a summary of conquering the whole land of Canaan. And it took a long time. Okay? Verses 1 to 6. This is the land and the kings on the east side of the Jordan River. Remember Sihon and Og. You will read those names and over and over and over and over again. Those land, I hope you remember, was on the east. And that was given to Gad, Reuben, and half tribe of Manasseh. They've already got that. Again, recap of a victory that's already happened because they've possessed their land. Now you go to 7 to 24. That's the land and the kings on the west side of the Jordan River. Okay? Joshua gave the land on the west side as a possession to the rest of Israel. This is a great chapter. This is like right in the middle. The Lord kept his promise to give the land to Israel. Sometimes these charts can be confusing. Okay? I still don't know what to do with these two lines. I have not a clue. Unless I want a little, right here and here and here and here and make my own little segment divisions. Maybe that's what that's for. But I know if it's 1 through 5, 1 through 6, what is that? 1 through 5 was preparation to go into the land.
I put you have not passed this way before.
That's great.
That's what I wrote in there.
That's because that's right out of scripture because they haven't. Okay? And then when you go through 6 through 12, what have we just been reading and reading and reading and reading? Because 6 started with Jericho.
That's where they start securing the land.
That's where they start conquering the land. So you could put conquering the land. 1 through 5 is preparing to. Maybe 6 through 12 is conquering it. However you want to divide it up, that does help. Especially if you're going to look for something in your Bible and you go, now wait, where was it when he Well, I know it's not going to be in chapters 1 to 5. It's going to be in chapters 6 to 12 because this is when they did the kings and all that kind of stuff. Okay, application. Does God fight for you?
Yes.
I mean, I say that, but do I believe that? Do I live like I believe that? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Depends on how many enemies are at my door, or in my head, or in my life, or never seem to go away. And how many victories have I had? Yeah, sometimes I believe it more than I don't believe it sometimes. Sometimes they're better, sometimes they're... Should it be that way? What does God continually tell Joshua? Be strong. Be courageous. Don't be dismayed.
Don't be discouraged.
Don't be discouraged. Why he mentions discouraged last, I don't know, because that will negate all the rest of the 3. You get discouraged, you're gone. You are a goner. Because that's inside. And you can put that face on all the time. How you doing? Great. You're doing great. And you get home and you're like, because that's inside. You can fake it really well. Especially women, we're really good at faking it because we ain't got time for that. Everybody else is going, blah, 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 so we gotta take care of that. And then when they finally get to bed, and it's like, now I can really tell you this is what's really going on.
When I got my first son, his name is Joshua, and when I was pregnant with him, I had a lot of medical issues, and I had never had medical issues before. So it was like the first time as a 20-something-year-old that I'm like, wait, my body's not working. And it was scary.
And you're
God
20
let me-
and this shouldn't happen.
God
You're
let me
20.
study Joshua during that time, and that's why I ended up naming him Joshua, is over and over, it was that God fought his battles, and it seemed like God fought his battles with praise more than anything. I mean, just the trumpets blowing with Jericho. Everything was
That's
just
so
praise,
true.
praise, praise. So that was, and then after he was born, he had surgery and a bunch of horrible things, like things with the baby you can't control. Like he had severe reflux and screaming all the time. Nobody could figure out what was wrong with him, and there was
Yes.
nothing you can do. And
No.
I had to. That was like
Hour
during that
by
period.
hour.
That was Joshua for me. I mean, his name's Joshua. It was God reminding me all the time, fight your battle with grace.
Right.
That I'll fight for you. You just praise. That's our job. Our job is just to praise Him and give Him glory, and He'll fight the battle for us.
And every minute sometimes.
And He's my living reminder. He's my stones.
I love
mean,
that.
Just His name, Joshua.
He
reminds
just
me all
walks
the
around
time.
with you. I love that. She told you at the very, very last thing, day 5, to list, I hope you listed victories because that's important for us to remember, to go back to our stones. To go, God was faithful here, He was faithful here, He was faithful here. Go back to salvation and where He's brought you from there. My goodness. I don't care how old or young you are. Those victories, if you look back, it's good to look back. It's good to look back and go, I need to write that victory down. I need to read that often. Okay? Number one thing, don't neglect your time with Him. Your prayer time, your study time. It's the only source of ammunition you've got. That's it. That and the body of believers around you. I was listening to a podcast with Dr. Dobson. He was talking to the late Chuck Colson. He said, I don't believe a Christian can lead the Christian life if he's not in the church. That's a bold statement. That is a bold statement. I have a friend from Cape and Ray days, and she died in 2015. And I keep in contact with her husband, whom I've only met once at their wedding. He's not in the church again. Keep asking him when God brings him to mind. I texted him 2 days ago. He's in Seattle, Washington. Now the time difference is 3 hours, something like that. This is like, I don't know, 6 or 7 in the morning. He's not to church yet. He's messaging back. I'm like, what's he messaging back for? It's 4 in the morning. He has to get up and go at 4 in the morning. He goes, not yet. I go, don't neglect it. Go find a body of believers to be a part of. My faith is strong, but it won't be.
It's hard out there, though. I have a friend who lived in Oregon, and there weren't any good churches. There were no Bible-believing churches out there.
Pacific
They
Northwest.
tried
is
everyone around them. They
so
could
hard,
not find a church.
which is where Jesse Campbell is.
Yep,
Crazy.
yeah,
Mission field, huge.
yeah.
Yeah. Anybody? I want to give time. If you have a victory that you go, man, I will never forget this. Like you just shared, how God got you through that. Share that victory.
Jenny, it was, I can't tell.
We'll come back to you.
It's there, but I can't talk. You know what it is anyway. It was when we financially lost everything but our house and our car.
Wow.
And how God dumped jobs in our lap. One of them being the cooking job.
Oh, yes, you told me about
therefore
that.
food, because I got part of the agreement after, when I did it just as hostess of the church, they always wanted me to take the food here. Why don't you take it here and here and here? And I'd had a long day from 7 to 9 o'clock at night.
How about I take it home?
You can take it. I don't care. You
Right,
can take it.
right.
So when I actually took the job, part of the agreement was that I could do what I wanted to with it. I could dump them. I could take them home. But that was a lot of what we had a lot of chicken backs at
Right?
the time too.
But still, right? That's God's
Yes,
provision.
but it was fabulous because he dumped a job in Weldon's lap because he became humble and went back and worked for the company that he had owned.
Oh, that's tough. Wow, that's
So,
tough.
faithful.
Faithful. God, how many times have you prayed, God, thank you that you're faithful when I am faithless? Because I can see where I should have and I didn't, but you still. And, you know, in the world, that doesn't happen. Well, if you're not normal.
Talking about not being ready for the victory, though, my story with Joshua and how hard that was. I tried for 5 years to get pregnant. He was my first kid, and after 5 years of miscarriages and all kinds of things, I ended up, because I was at my lowest, I took a job teaching that I never would have taken except for I was at my lowest and I wasn't qualified in teaching. And I have hundreds of students that still, it was a low-end high school, and like the kids just attracted to me, and I got to share the gospel. I led many students to Christ. Like, and I have these kids will still text me years
that
later, and like so all that like, and even then I was still hurting because I still wanted to have my own kids, but I wasn't ready for it because what ended up happening, God knew what was going to happen with Joshua and how hard that would be, and He was preparing my heart through all that times and through all those miscarriages and through the students, and I got to make an impact I never would have been able to make because with my own kid I couldn't put the time into it that I was able to put into it.
And you made a difference in those kids' lives still.
So being prepared for not ready for your victory either is I wanted the kid and I wasn't ready for
It's His perfect
what was gonna
timing.
come.
It is His, can you not look back and know this is God's perfect timing and I would have messed it up so bad. Except that you wait for His time. It's amazing.
And that's, I think, things that I see are when you wait on the Lord.
Right. And that's never easy.
It's never easy.
Man.
And while you're waiting, it's not like you're just sitting there waiting, nothing's happening.
Right.
Because I see his provision has been there. We've dealt with the same financial thing. I'm sure everybody has at some point in time.
Definitely.
But we had 5 years of it, and just how he keeps providing. But one of the things I'm finding most interesting, and I'm just kind of waiting to see where this final significance is going to be for me, is I started my dedicated Bible study because I grew up in the church. But I mean, delving into the books, right? September 11th, 2001.
Wow.
With Moses.
When she's cutting this.
With Moses.
Wow.
And now, yes. And now
Talk
we're at
about
Joshua,
full
and she's in that
circle.
same time frame.
That's amazing.
I'm like, okay, I'm waiting to see what this is going
Right?
to be all about.
It's true. I can excitingly look in other people's lives to see how God's going to work it out better than I can myself. Yeah, because patience.
Well, a lot of it's hindsight too.
And it is.
It is.
And it's those battles you fought and fought and fought. And look, He was faithful there. He's going to be. It's just going to work out. I don't know how. It's just going to work out. I don't know how. But how are you going to? I don't know. It's really not my job
Yeah.
to know. It's my job to be still and know. I am God. I know the number of hairs on your head. No one can pluck me from God's hand. Nobody can do anything into me unless God allows it to come to me. And I can't fix everybody. Though I want to really badly. I can't. It's not my job. It's not my job. I can't fix every problem. My job is to be faithful and to do what God tells me to do and leave the rest. How many times do you say, I don't know? I've lost count. But again, it's not my job to know. My job is just like Joshua. Be faithful, take the counsel of the Lord, seek the counsel of the Lord, and then do it wholeheartedly. And don't be discouraged when it doesn't happen the way you thought it really should happen this way, but it's really happening this way. But I don't fight like he does. How many times you sit there and you go, I can't make this stuff up.
I know.
It's just,
Back in 98, we moved here in 97, and my husband had some heart issues, but wasn't that bad. But as it came later, and I didn't know that, all I knew when we moved here was my son and my daughter-in-law and my 5 and my
We're here.
3 and 5 that were here, with the grandkids that were here. And so we came naturally to First Baptist here. And but anyway, during the 98, kind of heart problems became more evident. And we had, my daughter in Dallas had asked us if we could go to Dallas and take care of her kids, which were 3 of them. No, 2 of them, because she was taking one of them to New York. It was her time to go to New York with Mom and Dad. So we were there, left home with the other 2. So we asked the doctor, and, is it okay? We fly and do it. And he said yes. So we went and we took care of them. But in the process, of course, Ken was the driver when we got there, driving the van and driving the kids to dance and to whatever else. And they have a 2-story house, and all the bedrooms are upstairs. So he was starting to have some angina pains. And luckily enough, our young son, being the pilot, he had his base there in Arlington, or right there close to Dallas. And so anyway, and I was contacting my son Ronnie, and I said, your dad's having some problems, some issues. And then of course I let my daughter know, even though she was in New York, but I let her know as well. And it was around Christmas time. We were supposed to spend Christmas with them. And anyway, make a long story short, we had to come home. And my son got us on the plane, got us to the airport and took care of us that way.
The pilot.
And of course my son-in-law, my daughter and son-in-law had already returned from New York, but we had to leave. And being Christmas, our ticket was not until after Christmas time, but there was 2 seats available on that flight heading back to Orlando, which is impossible.
Unheard of. At Christmas,
Christmas.
Especially at Christmas, yeah.
And we did not have to pay the change in flight reservation. God worked on
He does. He does.
And
Again, it's stuff you just, I can't make this stuff up.
I know.
It's like, if I were Joshua, I would have included in Scripture. And God put hailstones above them. I can't make this stuff up.
I know.
But he didn't put that in there, so that wasn't, spirit ordained. But it's just like
his watch care was just, and then it was like 2-3 days later he had open heart surgery.
Wow.
Dude.
After we got back.
Yeah, and they let him fly.